Welcome home to the Irish Roots Cafe, where every day is a holiday and there's always room for one more. Well, now we'll move on to the second little project we had, which actually began back in 1984, focusing on local history, area history, and then we had a little speakers bureau, and some people took on more national topics. And we've continued it here all the way into 2019, which might be a record, I think. And it's all about the Irish in Missouri, the heart of the nation. And you know, St. Louis used to be the largest foreign-born city in the United States, according to many reports. And let's see what we found, what we cover in this presentation, in our poster presentation and commentary. Kansas City Irish, the St. Louis Irish, which of course came much earlier, the Irish Wilderness Settlement, and Father Hogan, who wanted to give these immigrants working on the railroad more of a family life, more of a pastoral scene, so he moved down into more of a wild, untamed country, I think. And there's a whole story about that. We got the St. Louis Irish covered, and the famine Irish really tell the story in St. Louis too. There's the Murphy Wagon. Joseph Murphy came to Missouri as a young boy. He was parentless, and the people, his uncles, the Hullen brothers, who were supposed to meet him, they took off. They started a distillery business, which went bad, belly up perhaps, and they left, so he got here with nothing. And there was also a settlement in the Brule Bottoms talked about around 1798, Father Maxwell. There's also settlements like Donnybrook, which of course you can find all over the country where the Irish settled, and this might have been an informal name, I think, for a while. There's a lot to do with the first newspapers in Kansas City and St. Louis and other areas were started by the Irish. You're going to find a lot of political things like the Pendergast regime in Kansas City, and the Riverfront Dock, where people first came and after they settled. Brown's Irish Market, the oldest Irish-owned family business in North and South America, we think, although I'm not sure. But it's been around a long time, and that's here with us today. And we also talk about the modern newspapers, which have come into Kansas City after the establishment of all those earlier ones. Father Bernard Donnelly, an early sponsor of the territory, came in and really formed a community around the Irish in Kansas City. And St. Louis had a lot of famous men, first millionaires, railroad magnates, firemen heroes, the whole shooting match, really. I don't know what else. Don Alessandro O'Reilly from the Spanish regime down by New Orleans. He was friendly and sort of helped some of the Irish settlers along into the Missouri territory before it was a state. So that just gives you a little bit of idea of the Missouri Irish, the original history, and it's a lot of it comes from my book Missouri Irish by Michael C. OLaughlin, and that first came out around 1984, and we've continued it and added some things onto it, and I think you'll enjoy it. It's good not just for Missouri folk, but for folk who are following where and how the Irish went, and what some of the differences might have been. And a lot of them come up from the South. A lot of them came from ads placed in the newspaper, the Boston Pilot, and the New York papers too. Many of them went on to California, and they had quite a deal there. You can imagine an Irishman on his way for gold, you know. Of course, that was all of America, not just the Irish, but it's interesting to see how it all puts together. So that is our second presentation that we put together for festivals or private showings, museums, things like that. And I've given it several times in Kansas City through the Mid-Continent Public Library System, and more to come, I'm sure. So let's move on now to our third selection, which we'll take Irish heraldry and arms. There's a whole untold story about that, and you might be surprised where your family stood in line for this stuff. We'll see that in the next explanation or commentary on the Irish Roots Cafe exhibits for 2019 and 2020. Thank you very much. Come all you loyal heroes, where'er inclined to be. Don't hire with any master till you know what your work will be. For you must rise up early from the clear daylight till the dawn, and I'm afraid you'll ne'er be able to plough the rocks of Bon.